There's no sales, there's no marketing, there's no customer success, there's no field marketing, there's no SEs, SAs, SDRs. We are one team. And if you build the rituals and the reporting and the culture of one team all rowing in the same direction, then that for me, that's always been the secret of being successful as an organization.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, there it is. I hit the button. This adventure is about to begin, and I just got to tell everyone, I don't know if you have your coffee, do you have your Celsius, your energy drinks, whatever you need to lock it in. It's not very often you get to talk to or listen into a conversation with a guest about who I'm about to talk to. He does things. He makes it happen. He helps companies grow. And I don't say that just generically. We're going to get into it. Who is he? Who is he, Casey? Marketing leader, thought leader, a growth and demand gen leader, a speaker, consultant, and advisor to the stars. 5-time CMO at PE-backed, VC-backed companies. And he really just specializes in taking these like high growth companies to the next level, right? So we're going to crack open that brain and just get some of that goodness out of there. He's helped some companies, some SaaS companies go from 50 million to 2 billion. Billion with a B, friends. Global teams of 130 plus, 30 million in marketing budgets, cybersecurity, AI, enterprise SaaS, you name it, honored from Forrester as the Marketing Executive of the Year in 2019. Chief Marketing Officer of SmartRecruiters, Steve Hardy. Welcome to the show, sir.
Man, I feel so humble. Thank you for that introduction, Casey. That was quite special. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. And I can't believe I almost lost myself in your introduction. You're doing a lot. You have done a lot. And I'm honored to be able to learn from you today. So I'm going to shut up and pass you this thing. It's heavy, but clearly you work out. Okay, hold on. Here it is. Okay, and there we go. All right, so take Thor's hammer. Go ahead, grab that.
Okay, I got it. Okay. I got it in my hands.
All right, Steve, take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
So this is a really fun question. I love it. And honestly, there's so many myths circulating in the sales and marketing and go-to-market space. But I think one of the biggest ones that nobody really takes on is the sales and marketing relationship. People love to say that sales and marketing are misaligned, that they don't work together, that they're really challenging, that they're like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yes.
But it's BS. I think that sales and marketing are perfectly aligned, can work really well together, and can be a match made in heaven.
Match made in heaven. What's going on here? I've definitely heard the drama. I've even made some of it myself. The idea of they speak a different language, or marketing's in bed at 9 p.m. and sales goes to bed maybe at 4 in the morning.
Yeah. The common thing that I hear is that it's all about perspective, right? Sales are really focused on this month, this quarter's number. They're not long term. Marketing are all about building brands, building, product and roadmap, generating pipeline, and they just have a different perspective of the of how long that we need to align on. So I think that is one of the key areas that the myth comes from. And sure, there's some truth in that, right? That sales would be totally out of their depth if they were not focused on closing the quarter. But from a sales leadership perspective, I've never met a sales leader who is not focused on the long-term health and long-term growth of the business. And that's exactly what marketing are focused on too.
What happens? We're getting dramatic here in the marketing world. We're sort of talking about the sales and marketing and how we hate. I once had a sales director in an interview say that he thought that sales and marketing should always hate each other. And so, okay, shots fired. I know I didn't work at that company, but like, so what happens when we have this approach to this relationship?
Well, exactly as you described, right? Nothing good happens when you have a combative, challenging environment. Now, I'm not to say that it's always important to have candor, to have openness, to be direct about the results, about how we're performing. But you have to have a really productive and good working relationship with your peers. And it's not. It starts at the top, but it transcends the entire organization. So, yeah, if it doesn't, if sales and marketing are not aligned, then I find it's incredibly difficult. And I've observed organizations really challenged to meet their goals,
Yeah.
and to progress and to grow.
It's something occurred to me, the idea of like what it's almost like we're setting expectations, right? If we expect the relationship not to work, and we just talk about how different we are we just self-fulfilling prophecies at that point? Or we just
That's exactly right. Imagine going into a marriage or a relationship thinking that it's going to be combative, and that it's not going to be productive, that you're not going to value a positive relationship. And that's the way that we set ourselves up for failure, I think, in sales and marketing, versus starting out with the mindset, with the attitude that together we can be better, and we can function as a singular unit that's all focused on how do we grow and expand the business.
right. Otherwise, you're starting out defensive. Oh, they're gonna hate me, and they're gonna be lazy, and yeah, like thinking the worst of everyone doesn't usually start that thing off right, right? It's just
Yeah, I mean, it. I think much of this comes down to originally the core archetype of sales and marketing were very different,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Marketers were, brand marketers, um, all about creativity and fluff.
Making things pretty, right?
You
Classic.
send them a PowerPoint and my slide deck
Yep, yep.
to marketing, and they'll pretty it up. I mean, let's get real. That has not been the archetype of marketing, and definitely not in B2B SaaS for decades. That is not how growth-oriented, business-oriented marketers operate. And similarly, the archetype of a salesperson, of a sales leader, is often, yeah, they're just a, dubious car
Car
salesperson,
salesman, yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
They'll do whatever it takes to close a deal. They're disingenuine. And again, that is not the case in, seasoned professional sales organizations,
Mhm.
where they're all about building relationships, driving value up and down the organization, and demonstrating that to the business. So I think part of this myth is just about, we it's founded on some some ideas that are just not in any way, shape, or form like reality.
I never until you brought up, like, yeah, we're talking about old stories. Like, what are we even talking about? You're right, I haven't met unless you go shopping for a car, in which case you'll meet them, but in the
Why
text
is that, Casey? I have no idea why that is.
I don't know, but you know what? Maybe that's part of it too, is that when you see that kind of you're like, "Oh, well, so" but tech sales can't survive that way. Like, it doesn't work trying to sell an $80,000 SaaS app to a buying committee acting like you're selling a car. It just it hasn't for a long time, to your point. Like, these are old stories.
Yeah, they really are. And also, these are, I mean, $80,000 SaaS applications. The reality is that it's certainly in some of the business that I'm in, we're selling relationships, critical business capabilities that are, uh, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of contract, but also have, millions of dollars are fundamental to the operating of companies. People are betting their business, their careers on making the right decision. So you need to, gain the trust and reputation of a sales and marketing organization that can fully represent that.
So, if these archetypes are old, we're telling self old stories, and actually the relationship can be beautiful, then how do we go about changing our thinking or changing the story we're telling ourselves?
Yeah, great question. And there's a couple of areas, 5 areas I think
Okay.
that are really important. So it starts with goals, right? You have to have alignment on a North Star, a set of KPIs, a set of metrics that both organizations are focused on. Uh, for me, that's bookings, close one deal, and pipeline, right? It's super important that the entire marketing organization and the sales organization are focused on the same thing. If you have different goals, you drive different behaviors and different outcomes. That's where you start to have marketing focused on how many MQLs you've generated, how many leads you've generated. I tell my team, not entirely, in jest, but I don't care how many clicks we have on the website. I don't care how many badge scans we have at an event. What I care about is pipeline and how much of that pipeline that we create converts into existing customers and then happy, loyal, retaining customers. So number one, you've got to be focused on the same goals. The other piece is um, respecting each other's swim lanes, right? Um, I'm a marketing expert. You gave me a pretty good intro, right? I know what I'm doing in the marketing domain.
You do.
I do not profess to know how to close a deal, how to progress a deal, how to manage those, how to manage a sales organization at scale. So understanding and respecting each other's swim lanes across the organization, I think, is really important. That's not to say that there is deep collaboration required. It's not to say that there is partnership, that there is, work across the aisles to make sure that the sales motion is working, that the marketing motion is working. But when it comes down to it, as the marketing leader, I have responsibility for how we're building our brand and generating and capturing demand in the marketplace. So understanding swim lanes and respecting swim lanes is really important.
It's fascinating you bring that up, the idea of, the more we can learn about each other, the better. But all you need to do is, I mean, I always tell people, like, go shadow some sales calls, go listen in, or go listen to the recordings. Um, or better yet, try to sell something. Like, I feel like there's nothing better for a marketer to do to go get a side job for a second and just try to sell anything, right? And then, and you'll realize, wow, like, it's scary, it's fun, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now. But man, you have respect for your partners that go out there, leave the cave with a spear and try to hunt down your pipeline you've created, you know?
Yeah, completely. I mean, two things immediately spring to mind. My team think I'm weird, or at least have no social life. But one of the things that I love to do in the evenings is binge, not Netflix, but I binge our call recording videos. Right? I watch how sellers are performing. I learn from how they're pitching, how they're representing our business. So understanding how the other half lives and how they do their craft is really important. At the same time, I also think it is, you know, super important to just have each other's back, right? You understand each other's swim lanes, but
Yeah.
when you go in front of the board, you're one team. You're representing the go-to-market function. You need each other's back. You shouldn't be publicly attacking and undermining, right? You're one team. I much as we focus on sales and marketing, and that relationship has to be really critical. As an executive team, it, I would never profess to be a people leader, a chief HR officer. I don't have the expertise to jump into his or her swim lane. Same for finance, right? I have to have competency and know the P&L and the balance sheet and how the business works. But I'm not an expert. I allow the experts in their field to go away and do their thing. So understanding and respecting swim lanes, I think, is super important.
Man, oh, just real quick. So that so swim lanes is, the second one?
Yes.
Yeah, respect the swim lanes. Um, let me just double click real quick on that, binging, the late night binging. Do you have a favorite recording app that works best for that? And I gotta
Uh,
imagine you're impressing the hell out of your sales counterparts by listening to maybe more calls than they've heard.
well, maybe I'm bugging them, to be honest with you, because I
Maybe.
leave lots of comments and yeah, and give the team thumbs up on what's going on. Do I have a favorite call recording app? Um, Genuinely, I don't.
Okay.
There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
I've used a good bunch of them all, Gong, Chorus, so I like them all. I think, frankly, having visibility into those conversations is
Yeah.
incredibly powerful. And you know, I'm not snooping. I'm respecting the swim lane of my peers in the
Right.
sales organization. What I'm doing is learning,
Yeah.
and I'm informing marketing strategy. I'm informing marketing messaging. I'm listening to customers and potential and prospects, so that I can help refine my marketing strategy. And that's the beauty of call recording apps, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
Remember when I started my career, I'd have to do a ride along.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'd put my suit on
Yeah.
and ride along with a sales guy. Now I can do that 40, 50 times a day in, small bingeable moments, which
That's
is
great.
which is awesome.
That's great. I remember early on when we didn't have these apps, I would go sit in the room and they'd chat on speakerphone. And I actually remember from one of the experiences, this was supposed to be a lead. I just came into this program, so I'm not claiming responsibility. This person got on the phone and their first question was, "Who are you again and what do you do?" And I was like, "Dear God, that's not I don't want sales getting on the phone with a lead and they don't even know what you are and what you do." I'm like, but I was so thankful to hear that lesson because I can solve that. We have a demo, we have a this. I can I can teach people before they get on a call what we do and who we are. Like, let me help you with that. So to your point, it's so powerful to pick up these little tiny anecdotes that maybe no one else is realizing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And they're valuable, across the business, right? Whether that's building sales enablement programs, whether it's building messaging, you're taking those insights and helping build product. So yeah, being able to listen in, review, and take those insights at scale is super helpful for us as leaders.
It's the first time I've heard that as a habit, but gosh, is that if I had a book of CMO habits, that's got to be one of them. Is just binging on those calls. That seems like an absolute must have.
Yeah, and I do it because I want to be involved and I want to
Yeah.
kind of really but at the same time I encourage my team to do exactly the same. You can't be successful in product marketing these days if you're not doing that. And you don't have to spend hours and hours watching every single call, right? You can synthesize and glean, themes and competitor mentions and business issue mentions, etc. So there's a lot of capabilities and a lot of power in those tools.
So powerful. Okay, so that was 2. Man, already at 2, I've got habits to add to the what is 3?
So for me is it can't just stop at the leadership layer, right? So it ain't just about being buddies with your CRO if you're the CMO. You have to demonstrate that and ensure that those bonds, those ties are pervasive up and down the organization. And we're people after all, right? So there inevitably will be relationships that are not productive, but helping my leadership team, helping my broader organization to get through some of those professional issues and build really solid relationships with their peers in sales or in customer success is really important. And one of the things that I believe as a CMO is that it's my responsibility to make that happen. So if I hear of conflict or challenges deep down in the organization where a field marketer is not getting along with a sales rep, then I'm going to deal with that because you want to be able to address those issues out of the gate and make sure that those don't become pervasive across the organization. So setting a culture of partnership and enabling uh, every seller, marketer up and down the organization to partner is really important.
Setting the culture of partnership and then enabling it. I gotta imagine some people are thinking like easier said than done. Like mandatory fun for the two of you. You guys are gonna go do a trust fall together.
Absolutely. Mandatory fund, trust falls. That's exactly what we need to be doing. No, I mean, the same, set the same goals, make sure the goals are cascaded, make sure that they're appropriate and relevant to regions and territories and countries. Um, make sure that there are those rituals in place, like team meetings and Slack channels that the people are in. And yeah, sometimes you might have to force a bit of fun as well. We had our first company kickoff in more than 5 years. Well, actually since pre-COVID recently. And oh my goodness, the value that we got from getting the entire organization together for 4 or 5 days was just so powerful. It was so important. Some face to face, some in real life experiences really helped in building those ties and those bonds across the organization. And I'm a big advocate of that.
Nothing like a little Jaeger bomb to create a sales and marketing alignment too.
If that's your thing, Casey, then sure.
It's not, but that was the first drink that came to mind. That's what are the kids drinking these days, Steve? I don't even know.
Jaeger bombs.
Is that what they're drinking?
I don't think they are, but you never know. You never know.
And I definitely heard you. There's the positive of creating that the good vibes between everyone, but also hearing about a conflict. Tell me more about that. So you hear, is it just your marketer is just who's being the dink here? Like who's are you just, you're saying I'm going to find out what's going on here, and if if it's my team, I'm telling them chill, and if it's sales, we're going to talk it out, but we're not just going to let it happen, right? We're like, tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, right? As I do
Yeah.
skip levels across the organization, you just hear of these relationships that aren't working. Or if you're looking at, the data and you see that there's an issue with pipeline build in a particular region and you start double clicking down at it. And occasionally you hear those, well, so and so in sales is not hand processing leads properly, or they're not giving me feedback on MQLs, or they're not progressing their pipe properly, or vice versa. Your marketing isn't providing me the content that I need, or the ABM programs aren't targeting the right decision makers in an account. Just being on as a leader, being on top of that noise, doing skip level, being very visible, is part of my responsibility. I'm yeah, I'm the leader for a reason. I don't need to be involved in each of those decisions, but I need to have oversight and understanding of how my organization is functioning.
And you're removing obstacles, right? You're
Yeah,
listening to
exactly.
them, and we need to collaborate here. Like,
Yeah,
we don't have time for drama and squabbles. So let's nip this in the bud.
absolutely.
Powerful. Okay. So it can't stop at leadership level. We need that culture of partnership. Where do
Yeah.
we go after that?
So number 4 for me is around acknowledge our differences, right? And I said right up at the beginning, one of the origins of this myth, I think, is the short-term, long-term perspective that
Right.
many of us have. There is some truth in that, right? By definition, if I'm building pipeline with a 90-day, for example, close cycle, I need a longer term view of that. If I'm building brand preference, I need a longer term view of that. So just acknowledging those differences and understanding that there are different tactics, different motions, different priorities that play is important too. But what's important is to understand that they are both critical, right? We need the focus right here, right now, this month, this quarter to close the deals and close opportunities. But equally, we need to build brand. We need to build trust and reputation with individuals who may not currently be in a buying cycle in order to help build future pipeline. So acknowledging those differences and acknowledging the different priorities in order to be successful as an organization.
Absolutely. I can see this, carrying on from the respecting the swim lanes is, at the end of the day, someone needs to ask for the sale, right? And like, let's make this thing happen. We can dance for a while, but is this going to actually happen? A lot of marketers don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that, and we have our brave men and women in the sales side that are gonna, but also who are locked in for that focus of, hey, I got to make my number, or I might be out of here, right? There's some pressure going on, and we need that. But yeah, I hear your point. We also need that big picture. So is it enough just to say we need both, or how do you balance the two, or just everyone needs to agree to that they're both equal?
Um, is it enough to say that we need both brand and demand, and discipline focus on sales execution? Um, I mean, candidly, I think in very rare exceptions are there products, organizations, sales teams who can products that just literally sell themselves, right? And in order to really progress and to create advocacy and to create support for a deal, you have to have a mix of or a team that is focused on the entirety of that customer journey. Um, yeah, that's a pretty shoddy answer, Casey. But
No, no, no. I mean, they're both needed.
yeah, they're both needed. They totally are. I mean, brand is every single touch point that represents your company, right? And making sure and any deflection or any chink in that experience can have a really negative impact on the organization. I was reviewing review sites, for example, which is a key tactic in today's toolbox, and lots of individuals will go to review sites as part of their buying process. Um, and I see review sites or comments in review sites from ex-employees, right, that are dissing the experience and the like. And this is not a employer review site. This is a product review site. So again, long way to say, but it's important that that long-term view of how do we manage our brand, how do we manage our reputation, is married with the short-term issue of closing deals. Because who knows what that CFO did before she signed in the 5 minutes before she signed her contract, she may have just gone out and looked at some review sites in that example and said, I'm not sure I'm really happy with the way that this company represents their brand.
Spicy. Yeah. Like it's it's interesting. The idea, it's the challenge of the modern marketer to hold two different timelines in their head at the same time, right? Being aware of the short term and the long term and honoring them both.
Yeah, I mean, it is just the reality of the role,
Right.
right? And
Right.
honestly, that's what keeps it so exciting. And we're always focused on the biggest problems, balancing the priorities across building short term pipe, next quarter's pipe, next year's brand, helping to influence how we're shaping our product and the portfolio.
Right.
I mean, that's what makes the role of a CMO really engaging and really exciting. It's what motivates me.
Because if we only had one time frame, we could just we'd get it done and we'd have too much time on our hands, right? So we have to have some complexity in here.
And honestly, would it not be a little bit repetitive and a little bit boring if all we were doing is just focused
It
on
probably would.
on just doing the same thing over and over again?
Yeah. Well, they say for eyesight, it's really important that you like daily look far away too. There's a pink car out here in the parking lot. But look far away so you're not just your eyes get so fixated on the screen. They get that short term, view.
That might explain my bad vision, but
Too much screen time, sir.
too much screen time. Exactly. I will try to do that. I will look outside and look up every on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, wow, rounding the bend. What is our final ingredient?
Oh, final ingredient. Honestly, it's just an attitude of one team, right? There's no sales, there's no marketing, there's no customer success, there's no field marketing, there's no SEs, SAs, SDRs. We are one team. And if you build the rituals and the reporting and the culture of one team all rowing in the same direction, then that for me, that's always been the secret of being successful as an organization.
Definitely a leadership principle. What is your core strategy? What is your how do you ensure that your team is in the same direction and understands this culture of one team?
Um, and it comes back to it does come back to the idea of, you know, all of these 5 areas work together, right? Set
Yeah.
the right goals, understand each other's roles and responsibilities, make sure that everybody up and down the organization is aligned. All of those rituals, all of those behaviors, all of
Yeah.
those processes are, kind of mount up to being, to functioning as one integrated organization, whatever the reporting structure looked like.
Man, where do you get your learning from? I feel like I've been learning from you constantly just now. Do you what kind of sources? Do you like the pods lately? Is it books? What are you reading? What are you consuming?
Um, so I don't, so I don't read a lot of fiction. I read mainly business books, um, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I mainly listen to politics and current affairs on podcasts.
Yeah,
And my goodness, there's enough there to keep you awake
plenty.
and entertained. So that's my kind of thing there. I subscribe to a lot of newsletters and probably read 5% of them, but occasionally something will catch my eye. Uh, but I'm also a big fan of communities and really engaging and sometimes snooping in what's going on in peer communities. I think you can learn an awful lot from what others are doing. They don't have to be in the same industry. They don't have to be facing the same challenges. But I always think it's really useful to surround yourself with peers who are who are tasked with some of the same opportunities that you have. So that's kind of like my playbook for learning, and never be afraid to ask questions, right? And be humble. Admit where the gaps of your knowledge are. Even as an executive, you don't have all the answers, so ask questions and be really inquisitive in your day to day. So
Yeah,
those are the things that I focus on.
man, the curiosity, right? The inquisitiveness, just to find out more about something and just take it down that
Yeah,
path. Yeah.
yeah. I love the 5 whys framework. Right?
Mm,
Why, and just it helps you get to the real root cause. And if you can do that without feeling like you're interrogating somebody,
right.
then it can help you really understand the core of a problem.
It can be fun to not tell people what you're doing or they don't know the 5 whys and they're like, "Dang, you're acting like a preschooler. Like, why is the sun yellow? Why? Why? Why?" But also, you're right. I think so many times we stop at the second why, and there's, like, so many more layers beneath that,
Yeah,
and we
completely.
solve for the wrong layer oftentimes.
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes use a similar kind of 5 why framework when I'm interviewing people, and as a result of that, I may actually just ask one core question, or we may spend an entire 20 minutes in an interview talking about one particular area, right? But what I find is that by really double clicking on one initiative or program or project that somebody was responsible for, is that you get a really good understanding of how they think about problems and how they solve problems. So yeah, I love digging in and really being inquisitive around a particular issue.
And you know what? You get past the service. What exactly did you do in that campaign, Was
Yeah,
that your campaign? Was it a campaign you saw happen? Let's
that's
find
right.
out. Let's talk about, how you planned it, how you executed it.
Yeah. What was your role? What was other people's role? What would you do differently? How would you know,
Mm,
any learnings from that? And you just kind of really get super deep in much the same way that you would with an employee, versus just the superficial checkbox that many interviews get reduced to.
yeah. Powerful. Well, really, my next question for you, which I'm gonna ask you why a couple times. Who are you? Who are you? Take me back in time. Little Steve, did you know you're gonna be just like a marketing titan? And when you're a little guy, take me back in time. What was it like, little Steve?
You're very generous. Your use of superlatives is impressive.
Thank
But did I little Steve? No. Um, but there was definitely a space or time uh, in my childhood where I kind of became quite interested in advertising.
Mm,
And I remember the very first careers counseling that I had in, I think I must have been 14 years old or so. In the UK, you have to choose uh, the direction that you're
mm.
heading in relatively early. Um, GCSEs, A levels, you're specializing quite early. And my careers counseling, I shared with my counselor that I wanted to go into advertising. I remember this is the 80s in the UK, and and I was met. This is the exact words that she used was, well, Stephen, I hope you appreciate that it's not all fast cars and loose women. Now,
Wow.
a very politically incorrect, right?
Hell of a counselor.
But a hell of a counselor. And that was the extent of the of the counseling that I got. So I
Did that help? What did that do to you?
no, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Um, I chose to study marketing at college just by happenstance. Did I really know what marketing was? Not really, but I'd kind of got this idea that business and advertising, made sense. Um, and so I studied marketing at college. I had the real good fortune in the UK. Um, most undergrad degrees are 3 years in length versus 4 years in the US. But I had the real good fortune of studying at a college that had a 4 year program where the third year was a full year internship.
Oh, wow.
And so I spent my third year working at Sun Microsystems. If there's some kind of older folk out there, they may remember Sun
I remember,
Microsystems,
son.
and it just blew my mind. It was in their very early days. They were growing like crazy. We were stacking up, 40, 50% growth every single quarter.
Wow.
And all of my buddies who were back at university had gone to work at a supermarket or a, fast moving consumer good like Heinz. And oh my goodness, I was just so excited by new technology, the quarterly release cycles of new tech. Frankly, the money that was just a wash in tech, that I basically just came out of that internship and said, "That's it. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I want to work in tech." And that's exactly where I started. I didn't look and apply to any other roles. So just went straight into B2B.
Phew. Man, and then just that. I'm just looking at all the Intel and ADP and Gartner and Perkin and
Yeah.
all these different, just like a rocket ship.
Yeah, well, there's some big names in there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate if you look back. Not unfortunate, but unfortunate if you look now, rather. I spent 7 years early in my career at Intel, and Intel at the time was an incredible business.
Yeah.
I learned an awful lot there, worked with some amazing people. And that was just a classic example in being schooled in a large company with really solid processes, great strategy, great planning and execution. And that really set me up for a lot of success
Wow.
in subsequent environments. Now it's a shame with where Intel are at the moment,
Right.
but back then it was a great foundation in at the time what I was really focused on, which was product marketing, which is where I spent the first kind of third or first half of my career.
I feel like we need to do another episode where we just go all in on product marketing and smash some myths with that.
Oh man, that I mean, product marketing is really my. I love product marketing, and I think that it is incredibly important and perhaps the most important part of any certainly marketing function, and but maybe even the organization, right? I often describe product marketing as the small cog that drives the rest of the organization. And if you don't have really effective product marketing that's deeply understanding the desires, motivations, business issues of your customers, then you can't build marketing campaigns. You can't build product and product roadmaps. You can't build effective sales enablement programs. So for me, a really highly functioning product marketing function is critical to a marketing team's success.
Well, sign me up, Steve. We need to get a master class in product marketing because I feel like brand and demand get all the attention, and I
Yep.
I personally have neglected product probably the most. They've always been some other secret squirrel, the elves jumping through the woods over here, and I sort of haven't gone deep on that. So
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just so critical, right? Unless you understand those customers, then you can't build, a good ICP profile. You can't build. You don't understand who you're selling to. So, product marketing is where a lot of that intelligence and insight naturally resides, and there's just a flywheel effect if it's done really well. You're not wasting time and energy and resources chasing uh, customers and prospects who are not highly aligned to what you're good at as a business.
all right, well, stay tuned, everyone. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to get notified of that podcast when that comes out. But man, my next question for you is a bit of a hypothetical question.
Mm,
Now, are you ready for this?
okay.
All right. You see, I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire,
Ah,
right?
okay.
So next time you do an event over in Boston, right? You come on up, we get some beer, some lobster. We use the time machine. Okay, it's in the backyard covered in tarp, okay? To be honest. And so we use this time machine, but it's a particular kind of time machine where you get to go back in time and meet yourself a few days after completing school, that marketing degree. You might be in the middle of that internship,
Hmm.
and you get to go talk to that Steve. What do you tell him? What kind of advice would you share?
Oh, um, for me, that's really simple. Uh, I I would focus if I was talking to Steve circa, well, just out of college. I would say do a much better job of networking and understand that networking is not just um, going to a cocktail party or clicking accept on a LinkedIn invite, right? Networking takes time, takes energy, um, and it's got to be really focused. And that making sure that you're putting effort into building and maintaining relationships is super important in frankly, at every stage in your career, as you're growing your career, as you're building your career, and as you're getting towards the end of your career. So I would really focus on more and tell my younger self to focus more on doing a better job of building and sustaining a good network.
Wow. Powerful, powerful. And on that note, how do we build that network with you? Where do you want people to connect? If they want to reach out, connect, what good platforms, where do you want them to go?
Yeah, so my number one platform is LinkedIn. I'll accept lots of connections on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn to learn, to share ideas, etc. Like you said, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at SmartRecruiters, so a lot of my LinkedIn posts do happen to be about the recruiting AI trend that we're seeing, and how businesses are benefiting from really transforming the way that they hire people. But yeah, my number one platform is LinkedIn.
Fantastic. So we will link to that in the show notes. But when you click on that, you're listening. If you click on that, you say hi. He will accept that, but definitely say something in the message. None of these blank connections, people. I heard you on the podcast. Love it, or whatever. Just pod something, right? So that you're not just being a goofy rando that could be a spammer. Like, say where
That's right.
you heard the person.
Yeah, pro tip from Casey. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
and do you remember? I think that you shared a photograph of.
I did.
We have skiing in common,
We
right? So
do. Yeah.
we're both big skiers, and we were talking about skiing in our favorite local mountains. So
Yeah.
it's a best way to really engage and to connect with an individual, but also referrals as well. So
Mm.
it's important to build up networks and ask for referrals through your network.
Right. And it works if you build it when you don't need it. So that when you need it,
Absolutely right.
now it's
Yeah.
there for you. But building it while you need it feels, yeah, it just doesn't feel as good. It feels more transactional.
Well, which is why you have to really dedicate time to it
Yeah.
versus just make sure or thinking that it's just going to happen naturally.
Man, powerful. Steve, thank you so much for coming on here. I feel like this was a master class. It was so amazing to crack your head open to 5 different things where we can reset our minds, stop thinking conflict all the time, and just align and get shit done. I mean, I love it. Thank you for coming on here.
Hey, Casey, it was an absolute pleasure. It was great to connect, and I look forward to revisiting on another masterclass.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We're going to crack open product in a later episode. For those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. I've got drawings, I've got pictures. I ran out of space. I'm drawing size 10 font over here. Then share this with someone else, right? 1 person, 3 people, 9,000 would be cool, but even 1 is fine. But who needs to hear this? Do you have a peer? We talked about peers and communities. Do you have a peer that maybe has that kind of confrontational mindset with sales or with marketing? Man, let's get this episode to their place. But also, do you need to work on your own perception of your collaboration with your sales counterpart? Then definitely put this into your heart and put it into practice. But man, Steve, thank you again, sir.
Thanks, Casey. Take care.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.